Good evening, my name is Jamie and I'm making this video for a few reasons. One, coming up in August, I will be going on to my last academic year of pursuing my Master of Divinity here at San Francisco Theological Seminary, which means that I'm getting into ministry full time. And in the recent of the latest activities that has been occurring here in the U.S., especially this week with the death of Alton Sterling and Philandro Castillo, and then the 5 cops that were gunned down yesterday in Dallas, Texas, and then this morning another cop that was gunned down in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm wondering what kind of ministry do I need to do to go out and make a change? To make a change in something that I feel like our system is so broken. A system in which we see a catalyst happening of underlying problems which has been in existence, but yet so hidden and unspeakable. It was almost non-existence in conversations, and yet slowly it's been rising and rising and rising to the top, and finally the cover is blowing off of this catalyst that we're seeing, this catalyst of racism, of violence, of being able to take weapons and point blank killing somebody in cold blood, because believe it or not, that's what these 2 law enforcement people did to Alton and to Philandro. Both of those cops killed both black men in cold blood. So why did they do that? What caused that rage in them to take the life of a person and not see the other person on the end of that weapon as a human being? To me, it's that systematic indoctrination of hate that we have been born into when we come into this world. Hate that we are taught, we are nurtured with, and we are indoctrinated with. Hate that comes when we see the fault of another person. Hate when our government tries to convince us that we are better than another nation or another country, because now we begin to hate those other people in that land because we think we're better than. And this is the fault of every country, every nation that will tell their people that we are the greatest nation, we are the best nation. Because now they're setting up their people to hate the others that are not like them. The only problem we have here in the U.S., because we claim to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, And over the years, we have had people come in from all over the world. We are people of every nation. And yet, we think we're better than other nations. There's something wrong with that logic. How can every nation be better than every nation? Or how can every nation be the great nation? And I don't think there is one great nation. And I don't think we are that great nation. We try to be the best, but it doesn't make us perfect. And if you think we're a perfect nation, then I think you're fooling yourself, and I think you have blinders on. If you think that there's nothing wrong in the U.S., that we don't have problems here, and you don't see the racism that exists, you don't see the oppression that exists, then you're walking around blind. And you don't see those suffering around you. You're walking around in a place of privilege that you just don't see the people that are hurting. So I challenge you to take off your blinders and really look around and see. Look around and see all the homeless in the streets. And if we just have one homeless person in the street, that's just way too much. Because if we are this country of technology, where we have all this advancement, and yet we can't figure out the problem for our homelessness, there again, I say that comes from systematic hate, because we see that person as less than. We find fault in that person. And therefore in our faults, we begin to hate. And we justify to ourselves why that person is homeless. And so we just walk on by as if that person does not exist. And we manufacture weapons that can kill people. If we are born people and we believe in a God of love, and in that God of love we are to love ourselves as to love our neighbors as ourselves, then isn't there something wrong if I need to go out and buy a gun? To buy a gun to protect myself? Because, wait a second. Am I not that person that is to love my neighbor? So why would I bring any harm onto somebody? Why do I need a gun to hurt somebody? And yet we've been indoctrinated to put up fences around our homes, to put up wrought iron bars on our windows and doors, because we can't trust our neighbors. We don't want our neighbors to harm us. And we think it's okay, or we find justification in bringing harm to somebody because they're not like us. We think it's okay to violate another person's property because they're not like us. So who's causing all this? Where is all this mentality coming from? And I would dare to say that it's coming from those who want to lead us, who want to govern us, who want to control us. Those who say they're here to protect us and to serve us. The leaders that are bought off and paid off by lobbyists. And yet we vote them in every single year. Every 4 years there's an election, we vote them on in. And the same politicians are lifetime politicians. And we just believe them year after year after year, saying the change that they made. Have we really seen any changes? Because if we have, we haven't really made any changes. Not rapidly. Because they're getting paid by the lobbyists. So our system is broken. Our system is corrupted. And we find fault. We have this two-party political system in which it's Democrat versus Republicans. And they've divided and divided and divided and separated us. So now I'm either a Democrat or a Republican. And if I'm a Democrat, I find fault in the Republicans. And that fault now turns into hate. So it becomes a hate game between the Republicans and the Democrats. This is the type of leadership that we have here, and it's globally, not just here in the US. This is what we've been indoctrinated into this world in which we find ourselves in senseless wars. Wars fighting over land, wars fighting over political statues, fighting over religious monuments, wars that are fought out of greed. And yet, these are the governments that we allow to exist and to govern us. Instead, we should be going after the governments that are controlling us. We should be toppling down the system of hate that they have indoctrinated us with. And this does not have to be a violent revolution. Because violence does not overcome violence with violence. It only begets more hate. Love is that solution. Love is the solution that can conquer all. But it's the hardest one to obtain, because it means we have to learn how to let go and become uncomfortable. It means we have to learn how to love our neighbors as ourselves. And for a lot of people, that's not an easy task, because they're still finding fault. They're still finding fault in their neighbors. And yet, that's the solution. Because if we have this love for each other, for another nation, then why do we need these weapons to kill one another? Why do we need weapons of mass destruction that can annihilate people within a minute? Why do we need to have mass incarceration? Why? Whys that we cannot answer. But if we have the love, it is the love that can cure and solve the solutions across the world, across the sea. It is only through love that we can elect politicians that would go and serve the people. We can end this lifetime politicians who are bought off by lobbyists. We would have politicians that would only serve for a limited term instead of a lifetime term. It is through this love that we would allow somebody without money to be able to serve their country. Why should it be only the people with money that are the voice of the nation? What makes them more qualified than someone like you or me? So, in order to change the system we are currently living underneath, we have to topple the system which is governing us, which is causing us to turn against one another, which is causing this systematic hate of us versus them, of you versus me. You're different than me, and I find fault in you because you do not look like me or act like me. It's also this religious hate that we are indoctrinated with. People that think they have the right to condemn another person for who they are, as if they are that God that created you and I. We have been brought up in a system that is broken. And yet, we want to elect the same political the people that are running this political system that is causing this brokenness and this hatred across the land, that is causing this division. We need to wake up and come together. Come together and stand united. Because right now we are standing so divided. I don't know what more to say, other than love is that solution. And this revolution doesn't have to be a violent revolution, because love can conquer this. And if they want to turn their guns on us for trying to topple down such a corrupt system, then I am not afraid to die for a worthy cause. Because in doing so, I'm making a change for the better. And if I should die in trying to make this positive change and bringing down such a corrupt system which holds so many of us in oppression, this this corruption that they have caused and this chaos. But in my death, I will be resurrected. And I will be spared this chaos. So it's not a fear of dying that I have. And I don't need a gun to bring about a change. I don't need to do violence to bring a change. And once we understand this simple philosophy of how we should live and how we should treat one another, then maybe we can change the world that we're living in. But what's it gonna take? It's gonna take getting uncomfortable. Because in order to bring about a change that's comfortable for everyone, those who have their comfort now need to become uncomfortable. So everybody can have the same comfort as a whole. It may not be easy, but it's worth it. And it's going to take letting love spring forth and realizing it doesn't need to be violent to achieve and to change the direction we are heading as humanity. Because if we keep continuing and keep denying where we're at as humanity, we are heading straight on into self-destruction as humanity. We will see ourselves destroying each other. And there will be no future for our kids, for our future generations, for our grandchildren. So what is it do we really want? Do we want a continuation for our children and our grandchildren? Do we really want to see a better world for them? Then if so, we need to change. We need to change the path we are on as humanity, and we cannot keep going with this hate that is manifesting and that is governing and that is controlling the lives, that is controlling the path that we're on. We need to be able to see and love the diversity of one another, of who we are as individuals. And if you can't get beyond that, I feel sorry for you. Have a good night.